My name is Lauren Whitaker. For 5 years, my parents acted like I didn't exist. They erased me from holidays, birthdays, and even simple family updates. The silence was a heavy blanket I learned to live under. Then, one day, my sister's reckless choices created a crisis so big, it finally brought them back to my door. They didn't come to apologize. They came to beg me to give up the only stability I had fought to build for myself. But they didn't know me anymore. They were about to find out that the daughter they had erased was not the woman standing in front of them now. The silence had a sound. It sounded like the quiet hum of my refrigerator on Christmas morning. It sounded like my own fork clinking against a plate on my birthday. For 5 years, that was my life. I was a ghost in my own family. It all started with an argument, a stupid fight that spiraled. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me, where in the world are you watching from? I love seeing how far this story travels. My sister, Kelsey, had always been the star of the family. She was beautiful, charming, and a little bit wild. I was the quiet one, the steady one. One night, I questioned a business venture she was pouring my parents' money into. It was a scam, and I could see it clearly. I was trying to protect them. Kelsey twisted it. She told them I was jealous, that I couldn't stand to see her succeed. And my parents believed her. Just like that, the switch was flipped. My calls went unanswered. My texts were left unread. When I drove to their house for Thanksgiving, the door was locked. Through the window, I could see them all at the table, laughing. They saw me. I know they did. My father just turned away. That was the day I became invisible. I was cut out of family photos. My name was never mentioned. It was like I had never been born. The pain was a hollow ache in my chest that never went away. I spent holidays alone, scrolling through social media, watching their perfect, smiling lives unfold without me. A life where I was a missing piece nobody seemed to notice was gone. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. The screen lit up with a name I hadn't seen in 1,825 days. Mom! My heart hammered against my ribs. For a wild second, I thought, asterisk, this is it. She's calling to say she's sorry that asterisk. I imagined her voice, cracking with emotion, telling me she missed me. I answered, my hand trembling. Lauren. Her voice was rushed, thin with panic. There was no warmth, no apology. Hi, Mom, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Lauren, we need you. Something terrible has happened. We need to save the family. The hope in my chest died instantly. The call wasn't a bridge. It was a demand. I met them at a sterile coffee shop, halfway between my house and theirs. It felt like a business meeting, not a family reunion. My father, John, wouldn't look me in the eye. My mother, Sarah, wrung her hands, her face etched with worry. Kelsey wasn't there. She never showed up for the hard parts. It's Kelsey, my mother started, her voice breaking. She's in trouble, deep trouble. It turned out Kelsey's life as a wellness influencer and entrepreneur was a complete sham. She had burned through tens of thousands of dollars on failed yoga retreats in Bali, racked up insane credit card bills trying to keep up a lavish lifestyle for her Instagram followers, and made a series of terrible, high-risk investments that had all collapsed. The total damage? $150,000. Creditors are calling, my father said, his voice low and gravelly. They are threatening to sue. They could take everything. Our house, our savings. Her life is ruined, Lauren. I sat there, sipping my black coffee, and listened. I felt nothing. It was like they were telling me about a stranger. This was Kelsey's pattern, a lifetime of messes that my parents had always cleaned up. Only this time, the mess was too big for them. What do you want from me? I asked, my voice flat. My mother leaned forward, her eyes finally meeting mine. They were pleading. We need you to help. You have your house. We know you bought it a couple of years ago. I stiffened. My house. The one thing that was completely mine. The 3-bedroom home with a small garden that I had saved for, cried for, and worked 80-hour weeks to buy. It was more than wood and drywall. It was my sanctuary. It was the proof that I could exist and thrive on my own. "You're a single woman, Lauren," my father said, his tone shifting from worried to practical. "You don't need all that space. If you sell it, we can use the money to pay off Kelsey's debt. We can make this all go away." I stared at him, unable to believe what I was hearing. They wanted me to liquidate my entire life, my security, my accomplishment, to bail out the sister who had happily watched them throw me away. My mother reached across the table and placed a hand on mine. It felt cold. "She's your sister, honey. It's your family duty. Don't you want to save her life?" The question hung in the air, thick and poisonous. Asterisk save her life. Asterisk the same life she was living while I was completely alone, wondering what I had done to deserve being treated like I was already dead. The memory of that final argument 5 years ago came rushing back. I was in their kitchen, the same one where I'd learned to bake cookies, the same one where my dad had taught me how to fix a leaky faucet. Kelsey had just announced she was dropping out of college to start a lifestyle brand, funded entirely by our parents. I had gently suggested she finish her degree first, to have a backup plan. "You're just jealous," she had screamed, her face contorted with rage. "You have your boring, safe little job, and you can't stand that I'm taking a risk. You want me to fail." I looked to my parents for support, for some kind of reason. Instead, my mother had put her arm around Kelsey. "Lauren, that's enough," she'd said, her voice sharp. "Kelsey is special. She has a fire in her. You need to support your sister, not tear her down." "I am supporting her," I said, my voice rising in disbelief. "I'm trying to be realistic." "Your realism sounds a lot like jealousy," my father had added, not even looking up from his newspaper. That was it. The verdict was in. I was the jealous, unsupportive sister. Kelsey was the special star. I left their house that day feeling like a stranger. The next week, they changed the locks. They told relatives I was going through something and needed space. They slowly, methodically, erased me. I remember my 30th birthday. I had hoped, foolishly, for a call. Nothing. Later that night, I saw a picture Kelsey posted online. My parents, my aunts, my uncles, all gathered around a big cake. The caption read, "Celebrating with the whole family. We love you." I sat in my tiny apartment, the one I could barely afford, and cried until I had no tears left. The hollow ache was a constant companion. They didn't just forget me, they chose to. They replaced my existence with a more convenient silence. And now, after all that, they wanted me to sacrifice the one thing that had kept me safe from that silence, my home. Back in the coffee shop, I pulled my hand away from my mother's. "No," I said. The word was quiet, but it was solid. It was a wall. My mother's face fell. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, no. I am not selling my house." My father's face darkened. The pleading was over. "Don't be ridiculous, Lauren. This isn't a negotiation. Your sister is drowning." "Kelsey is an adult," I replied, my voice steady. "She made her choices. She can deal with the consequences." That's when the niceties evaporated completely. The desperation in my mother's eyes turned to venom. "You've always been selfish," she hissed, her voice low and sharp. "It's always been about you, your little plans, your little life. Kelsey is the star. She shines. You've just hidden away in your little house, afraid of the world." "I bought that house because I had no one else to rely on," I said, my voice still calm. "You made sure of that." "Don't you dare blame us for this," my father boomed, slamming his hand on the table. Coffee slushed over the rim of his cup. "We gave you everything. Kelsey is in trouble, and you're sitting here talking about your feelings. You are letting your sister die if you don't do this." The accusation was so absurd, so manipulative, that a strange calm washed over me. They weren't seeing me. They were seeing a tool, a solution to their problem. A few days later, Kelsey herself called me. There was no apology, no hint of shame. "So, I hear you're not going to help," she said, her voice dripping with scorn. "That's right," I said. She let out a short, ugly laugh. "Figures. You were nothing 5 years ago, and you're nothing now. Hiding in that stupid house because you couldn't make it in the real world like me." Her words were meant to hurt, to cut me down to the small, broken person I used to be. But they didn't. Because she was wrong. They were all wrong. What my family didn't know was that being erased had been the best thing that ever happened to me. The first year was hell. I was adrift, consumed by grief for a family that was still alive. But slowly, a quiet fire started to burn inside me. The need to prove them wrong was a powerful motivator, but it soon turned into a need to prove myself asterisk to myself star. I poured all that pain, all that energy, into my career. I worked tirelessly at my marketing job. I took on extra projects. I got promotions. I saved every single penny. I stopped buying things I didn't need and started investing in myself. I took online courses in business management and finance. 3 years after they cut me off, I quit my job and started my own consulting firm. It was terrifying. The first 6 months, I lived on ramen noodles and cheap coffee. But I was good at what I did. Really good. My client list grew. My reputation grew. My income grew. 2 years ago, I walked into a bank and was approved for a mortgage. A few months after that, I paid it off. In full. My home was mine, free and clear. It was my fortress. But I didn't stop there. The silence they gave me was a gift of time and focus. I had quietly started investing in real estate and tech stocks. I had built a portfolio that was smart, diversified, and substantial. My net worth had grown far beyond anything they could have ever imagined. I wasn't the struggling, jealous daughter they remembered. I was a successful, self-made woman. My house wasn't a hiding place. It was a symbol of my independence, a monument to the life I had built from the ashes of the one they had burned down. Listening to Kelsey's insults, something inside me settled. The last bit of lingering hurt just disappeared. It was replaced by a cold, hard clarity. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I just listened to her venom in silence. When she was finished, I took a breath and said calmly, "For 5 years, you and Mom and Dad acted like I didn't exist. You wanted me gone. And now, you want me to erase myself all over again, to sell my home, my security, for you." The answer is no, Kelsey. It will always be no. I hung up the phone before she could respond. I didn't feel angry. I felt free. I walked over to my desk, opened my laptop, and drafted an email to my financial advisor and my lawyer. The subject line was asset protection. I instructed them to move my liquid assets into trusts and other legal structures that would make them untouchable. I was building a higher, stronger wall. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. A few days later, they showed up at my front door. My parents and Kelsey. They must have thought a face-to-face ambush would work. I saw their car pull up through my window. I wasn't scared. I wasn't even nervous. I just felt tired of their drama. I opened the door but stood firmly in the doorway, blocking their entry. "Lauren, let us in," my father commanded. "We need to talk about this." "We've already talked," I said, my voice even. "My answer hasn't changed." "You are being an ungrateful, cold-hearted child," my mother cried, her face twisted in a mask of outrage and pity. Kelsey pushed forward, her eyes blazing. "You are ruining my life. My entire life is falling apart because you're too selfish to sell this stupid house." They ranted. They screamed. They called me names. I stood there, solid as the oak frame of my door, and I let their storm break against me. It was just noise. Their words had no power over me anymore. I was no longer the girl who craved their approval. Their opinions were irrelevant. When they finally paused to take a breath, I spoke. It's not just the house, I said quietly. They all stopped and stared at me, confused. I'm not selling my house. That's true, I continued. But you should also know that all of my other assets, my savings, my investments, everything, are now legally secured in business holdings and trusts. You can't touch them. No one can. I let that sink in. I saw the calculation in their eyes, the dawning horror that their last resort was gone. Then, I delivered the final blow. I looked each of them in the eye, my mother, my father, my sister. I erased you from my accounts, I said, my voice clear and steady, just like you erased me from your lives. The weight of those words hit them like a physical force. My mother stumbled back, a hand flying to her mouth. My father's face went slack with shock. Kelsey just stayed, her smirk finally gone, replaced by a look of utter disbelief. They were frozen on my doorstep, unable to respond. For the first time in 5 years, they were the ones left in silence. I didn't slam the door. I simply closed it, gently, and turned the lock. The click echoed in the quiet hall. The creditors came for Kelsey. Her carefully curated online world imploded. There were lawsuits, repossessions. Her car was taken. She was forced to declare bankruptcy. Her disaster unraveled for everyone to see. My parents, once so sure of their star child, were left scrambling. They had to downsize their own home, sell their car, and drain their retirement savings to deal with the legal fallout. The life they had built around propping up Kelsey's failures finally crumbled under its own weight. And me? I continued to build. My consulting firm landed its biggest contract yet. I expanded into new ventures. I traveled. I filled my warm, beautiful home with friends and laughter. It was a place of joy, of support, of genuine connection, everything my family home had never been. One evening, I sat on my back porch, sipping a cup of tea, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. The light glowed on the windows of my home. My home. I thought about them. I didn't feel anger or desire for revenge anymore. I didn't feel hatred. I felt a strange sense of peace, of release. They had tried to erase me, to make me nothing. But in doing so, they had given me the ultimate gift, a blank page. They erased me, but I learned something in that silent, empty space. Erasure doesn't kill you. It frees you to write your own story. I took a final sip of my tea. I no longer needed their apology. I no longer needed their recognition. I had let them go, choosing my own peace over their bitterness. My life was full, not because they were finally gone from it, but because I had finally learned how to fill it myself. Asterisk, have you ever been erased, only to come back stronger? Drop your story below. And don't forget, hit like, subscribe, and share. Because sometimes, the best revenge is living in the home they swore you'd never keep. Asterisk.